Hey, what's up guys? Kane here with XBLA fans, and I'm going to be giving you a quick taste of Guns, Gore and Cannoli 2, the sequel to Guns, Gore and Cannoli from Crazy Monkey Studios. The game, I believe, will be out for $13.99, or sorry, $12.99, $13. We couldn't actually find a price on their press site or on the Xbox store yet, but that's what it is on Steam, so we're going to assume that it's going to be in that same ballpark. I beat the game last night actually on stream, so this is one of those games I've actually had the opportunity to play the entirety of the game before, even starting this video, which is kind of nice. Now, one thing you're going to notice immediately if you played the first one is that there's a lot more mobility and kind of just ability to go in different spots in this one. They've kind of upped things in a lot of different ways. So as you can tell, I can now aim in 360 degrees. I can look any direction I want. I can double jump, get some, like dodge rolls and kicks and some other crazy things you can pull off. But you also can use the environment in a lot of different ways. The game feels like it's been drawn back a little bit. So instead of being, kind of zoomed in on the action a little bit more like the other one, you've now been brought back a little bit, and that allows you to kind of use the environments and see various other things, and also obviously aim the full 360 degrees a little bit easier. You still got a ton of weapon variety and a lot of crazy things. As you'll notice, I'm currently playing as like a Santa Claus skin, so this is clearly not a game that takes itself too seriously. If you weren't familiar with it, the first game took the case of, I think it was Vinnie Cannoli. And, you're going around and you're trying to basically stop this giant massacre that's happening in, like, the 1920s. And, you're fighting zombies and this crazy outbreak. And now this one is taking place in the 1940s. We're going to eventually end up in Europe. You've got a lot of different kind of, locations and scenes you're going to see. It's actually pretty cool what happens, and I enjoyed the story as a whole. So it continues a kind of humorous kind of look at this. It's just a really kind of interesting game. To be honest, this is one of those games that like I just genuinely found fun to play. It's fairly relaxing to me. It's not exactly difficult, as you can kind of see on normal. I'm not playing on hard right here. I'm just playing on normal. There's 4 difficulty settings. There is impossible as well. If you really want a challenge, you can ramp it up on that. The game has a lot of different weapon variety. There's a lot of different things you can do to kill people. You'll notice, I could have dropped that chandelier on that guy's head, which would have been a lot cooler. You can drop, those air vents and stuff. You can blow up cars. You can do... There's just a lot of different ways to kind of dispatch enemies. Some of the later ones, you're going to be able to, like, kick them into things. Either a fire pit or a fan or something. The game has a lot of different nods that you're going to see throughout it to various pop culture. I don't want to spoil too many of them, but honestly, it's just kind of nice to see. The game also encourages you to explore a little bit, because like as you saw earlier, I was like jumping and platforming through this little area, kind of around like these tall buildings, and I found a better gun that way. And it's pretty much going to be like that throughout the game. That if you're willing to explore a little bit, you're going to find different weapons and find new things you can use to fight. And that's obviously very good. My biggest complaint about the game personally is that I found the controls to be a little funky to get used to at first. They use the A button as the interact button, with X as a reload, B as your kick, and Y as your switch weapon. The problem is you've got, what is it, like 16 weapons or something? Like, you got a lot. So when you hit Y and you try to switch, you're going to have to cycle through them one by one by one by one. So their solution to that was to give you the RB button and then allow you to use the stick. My personal problem with that is I felt that that was a little difficult to do in the middle of dodging in some of the more bullet helly kind of segments. I mean, there's very few of them, but every once in a while in a boss fight, you're going to be like, oh crap, I just need, this specific gun quickly. And it would have been nice to have a little bit of like a slow motion or something, just indicate when you pulled out your stuff like that. That way you could, kind of react a little quicker without like misclicking. Because I've just felt like the switching on weapons is a little awkward. Jumping Took me a while to get used to because I never think of the left trigger as a jump button. That personally for me made it really awkward trying to drop down, because to drop down you hold down and then hit the L button. It's basically like a reverse jump in a sense. When you start to think of it like that, it makes it a little bit easier and you kind of start to figure it out. But it would have been nice in my opinion to almost see like A, you know, switch to jump, and X done reload and interact. I don't know if any of that was actually possible or whatnot, but to me it would have just felt more natural. So those are like my big complaints about the game as a whole, to be honest. Other than that, it's what you see is what you get in like all the best ways. It's not exactly a game that's going to take itself super seriously. It's a lot of just run, gun, and shoot, and it's fun run, gun, and shoot. There's a lot of, you know, just random kind of moments like that. They've got some decent sequences that are just kind of action-packed and will kind of excite you up a little bit. Most of the game is just continuing to shoot and move forward. Every once in a while, you'll end up in an area where you need to kind of, you know, kill like an entire like wave of people. This is very early on in the game, so the enemy diversity you're seeing here is pretty small compared to what the game has in store. It does a fairly large job. Obviously, it's got melee weapons in combat as well. This baseball bat on this level, I believe, is actually an achievement if you play the entire level through only using this bat. I think that is probably like the hardest achievement on this list. It's definitely not a game that most people are going to struggle with, so like if achievements are your thing, you don't really have to worry about that. The game's aiming is actually incredibly easy. I felt like there was an insane amount of auto aim actually, because it seems to kind of want to help you out in every single turn. This is one of those sequences I meant where you kind of like fight in a room for a while. So like I've hit the sprinklers and they're going off, and it's just kind of one of those things where you just got to keep killing people until they finish. And I mean, it works pretty well for what it is. As a whole, like I've definitely enjoyed this. The environments are pretty good. I feel like some of the animation doesn't feel like it's the same as when I played the first one the first time. But some of that might be the fact that it's been drawn out a little bit and you're not seeing as much detail on like the deaths of characters and stuff. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because there's so much more detail in a lot of other aspects of the game. And it does that really well. Now, one of the cool things about this game is you can play it local or co-op, online, or local, sorry. And that's just a really nice plus. The game plays really well for that kind of thing, if that's something you're into. I enjoyed playing it solo, to be honest. It's just, to me, this is something that's very relaxing. Just go around and just casually shoot people in the head and listen to kind of a funny, ridiculous plot. You know, it's nothing too serious, and that's great. A lot of things you're gonna have to worry about with this one. Well, not really worry about per se, but when it comes to figuring out where to go, it's actually kind of nice at times because they either will put a weapon or a character that kind of reminds you where to go, and that's it's kind of nice. So like if you do end up getting, you know, kind of lost after you just cleared one of those rooms, like that giant fire room, if you notice, they immediately started spawning guys, kind of hinting at where I should have been going. And that's kind of nice. So, the biggest issue you're going to have when it comes to dying is if you make a mistake like I make right here. I just kind of boxed myself in a room where I didn't have a good weapon to kind of kill guys from range. And it's really hard to dodge when you can't really jump in that little corridor. So, I mean, that's basically the only way you're going to die in this game, in my opinion, is if you do something like that, or if you really just run through the entire game without killing people, and they all group up on you. Because as a whole, I found it to be fairly easy. I probably died a couple times playing through it. But again, I was only playing on normal. So, I mean, if you're looking for more of a challenge, there are more difficult settings. But if you're one of those people who just likes to enjoy a game a little more casually and likes to just have fun killing stuff, you know, in a shooter, this is a pretty easy one to play. It's not going to be one of those ones that you sit back and you're like, oh my god, who made this insanely hard for no reason? So, I mean, I think it's nice that it's got, like, kind of a good balance there. If you want it to feel impossible, they have the impossible mode. If you want to just have a good time, honestly, normal is pretty good for that. So I've definitely enjoyed this game. It's a lot of the same, so if you like the first one, I have a feeling you're going to really like this one. I wasn't 100% sold on the 360 aiming at first, but honestly, it felt really good by the end of the game. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching these quick tastes. Please do like and subscribe and share this video. It helps us out a ton, way more than you guys know. So thank you guys so much, and later.